is going to be bill request. And Kevin, you want to introduce yours?
Hello. I'm Kevin Barone with the Capital Lobby Group, here to introduce 25 RS 0065. Deals with updating our statute concerning cigarette vending machines.
Body, is there any questions about that? Representative Reese.
Could you repeat that? What was it about now?
Updating cigarette vending machine statute. Yeah.
So I'll elaborate just a little bit. What this does is that currently right now in tobacco cigarette vending machines, the only thing that's allowed in it is cigarette tobacco. So this bill kind of opens that up a little bit to add other tobacco items such as e-cigarettes, vapors, that kind of stuff as well. Any other questions? Any objections? Without objection, so entered.
Thank you.
Are there any other bill introductions? All righty. Crickets, okay. So today we're going to kind of have an agency overview from the Kansas Lottery. And with that, we're ready to begin.
Good morning, committee. How are you? Sorry, didn't realize that wasn't on. Back to the courtroom days of enunciating to the back row. Good morning. My name is Steve. I'm the executive director of the Kansas Lottery. I appreciate everybody being here today and having the opportunity to speak with you. Let's just go ahead and dive right in. I do have some testimony. I will spare you of reading it verbatim, but I'll try to hit some of the highlights. I do want to mention that our Director of Finance from the lovely and talented Matt Schwartz, who has been with us for a decade, actually left us in the light part of 2024 to join his alma mater in a new position. So we're putting together numbers slowly with a new staff, and so they're learning, and we're making sure that they are as accurate as we can make them. So diving right in, the net sales for traditional lottery, which are scratch tickets and instant games, for fiscal year 2024 totaled $837,000-ish, which is slightly down compared to the record of $338,199 million in fiscal year 23. We had the second largest year of sales ever, and it was due mostly in part to, well, not mostly in part, but partially in part to large jackpots on some of the national games like Powerball and Mega Millions. We had three separate jackpots topping $1 billion. Instant ticket sales, which are scratch tickets, were $201 million in fiscal year 24 compared to $203 million in 2023. We do tend to see more instant ticket sales when we have higher jackpot runs in Powerball and Mega Millions, and so when we don't get those national jackpot big runs, we do tend to sell fewer instant games as well. So when that happens, what we've done in the alternative is we've tried to change some of the outline makeup of our instant games and making sure that they are what our customers want to see. We also then have had the, since 2020, the vending machines, which you guys are aware of. And we also then, we placed a couple more vending machines and then we replaced in-ticket counters with larger on-ticket counter displays for people to be able to see the products. We changed our warehousing, which we'll talk about in a minute. we've done a number of different things to make sure that our instant games are as appropriate and available to our customers as we can. Total combined sales for all draw sales, which are Mega Millions, Powerball, and other games that go through the terminal, were $135 million in fiscal year 2024 compared to $134 million in fiscal year 2023. Combined total sales of Mega Millions and Powerball were $80 million in 2024, and which increased by about $3.6 million over the previous year. Just to give you an idea, the lottery's been around since the late 80s, 1987, 1988, and since that time, we've had net sales of over $7.8 billion. $4.4 billion went back to our players. $450 million went to our lottery retailers in that time, and $2.2 billion was transferred to the state. Vending machines, we talked about that a little bit. To date, we have about 370 vending machines out in the state at different retailer locations. In fiscal year 2023, lottery sales through the vending machines increased to $36 million over the previous fiscal year. And then in fiscal year 2024, they increased to $47 million. As a reminder, there is a statutory requirement that monies from certain percentage of monies from the vending machine sales go directly to mental health programs, and that money was transferred last year in the amount of $9 million. Let's see now. All the machines that we have financed have been done through operating cash on hand with no debit financing, or we have no cost for getting those. We do pay for the machines, but we don't. We take them out of our existing budget, and we do not charge retailers for those machines. The lottery pays for those. Transfers, which is always the thing that people want to hear about. As a result of fiscal year 2024, the lottery's contribution to state gaming revenues fund, veterans programs and mental health programs totaled more than $88 million. You can see there that $42 million went to the EDIF, Economic Development Initiatives Fund. About $2.5 million went to the Juvenile Detention Facilities Fund. All of these are statutory. Correctional Institutions Building Fund got almost $5 million. The Problem Gaming and Addictions Fund got $100,000. Again, that's statutory, but we'll talk more about the Problem Gaming and Addictions Fund here in a minute. Mental health programs got the $9 million through the vending machine sales, and the State General Fund got the remainder, which is about $28 million. Let's see. As you can see, the benefits to the Veterans Fund were about $1.26 million last year. We've given, since the program was initiated in 2023, just over $25 million, and those monies go to the National Guard Education Assistance Scholarships, Veterans Homes and Cemeteries, and the Veterans Enhanced Service Delivery Programs. This year, we also introduced a new type of instant game called Fast Play, which is essentially a game that is played through a terminal or through the vending machines, which you don't have to scratch. It just prints it out, and the numbers are already revealed, and you can play the game without having to scratch. That was introduced in, let me see, I think it was June of last year, or May of 2024. And then as of December 2024, we recreated an additional $2.6 million in revenue based on the Fast Play. In order to try and accommodate some of our retailer needs, one of the new programs we've introduced this last year is a program called SciQ, which is a program that was run through our Scientific Games partner or one of our vendors. It's an inventory tracking and management system, which is really terrific. If you've seen it, you get on counter, and it's very easy for the clerks to use, and it gives them an accurate representation of what's in their bins and what isn't, what's in the machines. We've installed almost 180 of those SciQ units, different retailers around the state. It's a slow rollout, but we're getting there to the people that are interested in it. We also then changed the way that we do our ticket shipping and warehousing. Scientific Games, as I mentioned, which is one of our vendors, approached us in 2024 and offered to try to retool the way that our warehousing and shipping works. We came to an agreement, and they took on 5 of our employees and took over the warehousing and shipping, and that was in order to sort of reinvest in some of the equipment that was necessary for the warehousing and shipping, and then also then to try and make it easier for retailers to understand where in the retail process or in the shipping process their products were. And it's been successful. It's been helpful in getting our instant sales up. I also want to mention that we will, in early 2025, we're beginning a new training program for an assistance schedule for our district managers to further aid retailers. It's a new system that will be in place to make sure that their needs are being met. And also, we've hired recently, just in sort of an aside, it's not in your notes, but we've hired a responsible gaming coordinator. We always get asked about responsible gaming. Our friends from ks are here for a majority of the heavy lifting when it comes to responsible gaming, but we felt that it was a necessity to have somebody in-house to watch all the different silos that are under the lottery's umbrella to try and make sure that we're doing as much as we can to ensure that responsible gaming is upheld in the lottery field. Moving down to additional monies generated during fiscal year 2024, it's always important to remember that the lottery doesn't always just generate ticket sales. We also generate things from people who win. We've generated 1.1 roughly million in sales tax, in state income taxes from people who won. And then we also had lottery prize winners. They are subject to the set-off program, and we collected $288,000 roughly through the Department of Administration set-off program. I should also note that our casino players, which are under the lottery umbrella, also have to go through the set-off program if they are going to claim their winnings, and the casinos collected $2.7 million worth of set-off last year. Again, pointed out special events, partnerships, and marketing game highlights. We continue to have great success with our Play On, which is our player loyalty program, which is our second chance drawing, and also the information system that goes to our players. We have 365,000 members in that Play On club, and for a state of our population size, that's a pretty impressive number. They've scanned more than 118 million tickets since the program came into existence, which is a lot, and that was since 2020. We had our Holiday Millionaire raffle again this year. We sold 150,000 tickets. We sold out again this year. We gave away $1 million, or announced the $1 million prize on January 3rd of this year, and that prize has not yet been claimed. So just so you know. We launch typically about 40 instant games, scratch tickets a year, and then 10 fast play tickets, which you heard me talk about, and we launched 10 of those in 2024. We continue to have great marketing relationships with our partners at K-State, at KU, our friends over at the Chiefs, and NASCAR at Kansas Speedway. We continue to go through and work with those folks because those seem to generate a lot of enthusiasm with our players, and we enjoy having them get benefits from those partnerships that they wouldn't ordinarily get just as ordinary fans of KU or K-State. They get to go have sweet experiences, and it's really great. They really enjoy those. In fiscal year 2025 so far, the instant game category continues to perform well with $107 roughly million through the first 6 months of fiscal year 2025, which instant sales are up compared to the same time period next year. We'll see how we do by the end of the fiscal year. Total sales for draw games in the first 6 months was about 59 million. Total for all games is about 166 million, which is behind this time last year. But as I mentioned, this time last year there were $3 billion jackpots between Powerball and Mega Millions. This year we've had one, and that was in December of last year. And we have transferred at this point so far $36.8 million to the state. I'm going to move on to casinos here. Looking around, well, I guess we can save any questions till we get to the end. Boot Hill Casino, if you look at the casino revenue on page 5 of your information, you can see that Boot Hill we were slightly down last year by about less than 1%. Kansas Star was up 3.45%, Hollywood Casino was up 4.7%, and Kansas Crossing was up 3.76% for $200.7 million in casino revenue for fiscal year 2024, $754,000, in fiscal year 24. Casino revenue fund transfers in fiscal year 2024. The state of Kansas received $89.75 million cumulatively through fiscal year 2024. Since the casinos came online, the state has received a little over $1 billion from casino gaming. We talked briefly about the Problem Gaming and Addictions Fund. The Problem Gaming and Addictions Fund through the casinos is heavier funded than it is through the traditional lottery. So last year, as an example, there was $100,000 that statutorily came from the lottery, but we're more than making it up through the casinos. They get $8.1 million from the casinos to the Problem Gaming and Addictions Fund. Cumulatively, since the casinos opened, they've received $96.2 million for problem gaming and addictions. The cities and counties, as you know, through the statutes, are part of the casino process, part of the casino revenue process, and they have received about $12.2 million last year and cumulatively about $144 million. If you look at, I won't go through each of the individual zones, but if you look at Southeast Gaming, the Southeast Gaming Zone and the contribution, $38.9 million. Up until fiscal year 2024. Then you go through the South Central Gaming Zone. We also break down through what percentages each individual zone or each individual casino gives to the state, the county, the cities in which they reside, because they're all different just based on the statute and the contracts that the casinos entered into. One thing I do want to point out that we are happy to announce, finally, that we do have a casino extension for the Northeast Kansas zone for Hollywood Casino, and it will entail the development and building of a hotel, finally. After we've been asked repeatedly in the legislature for the last 15 years where the hotel is, I am proud to announce that there will be a hotel built by, I believe, it's the end of 2026. That is their target date. They haven't announced it formally yet, but we will find out when they make their formal announcement to their shareholders. But that's a great thing. We're very happy about that. Moving on to, let's see here, sports wagering. As you know, sports wagering revenue fell into what we call expanded gaming. It was passed in 2022. I won't read through everything on page 7 because it explains how wagers are calculated and revenue is distributed or created. It is important to point out that 90% of sports wagering revenue is paid to the facility managers, and 10% is retained by the state. That's the way that works. The first $750,000 each year created by the state's revenue goes to what is known as a white-collar crime unit. That is under the jurisdiction, I believe, of the executive branch, and then the Attorney General's Office of the Racing and Gaming Commission can ask for distributions from that fund to combat white-collar crime. 2% goes to the Problem Gaming and Addictions Fund. 80% goes to the newly created Attracting Professional Sports Teams to Kansas Fund, and 18% then goes into the State Gaming Revenues Fund, or the State General Fund. Fiscal year 2024 was the first year of full sports wagering. In the first 10 months of fiscal year 2023, the state earned about $5.8 million. For fiscal year 2024, we earned about $11.7 million. And you can see the breakdown on the top of page 8. We kind of screwed up the pagination about that. Sorry about that. We'll fix that for future use. As we move down to on page 8, you can see the impact of having a Super Bowl winning back-to-back team on our sports wagering revenues. That has impacted us, obviously, because in Kansas, a lot of folks bet the home team, and it's great the Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls, but it does affect our revenue stream in the long run for how much we are earning off of Super Bowl wins. So you can see through the sports wagering revenues on the bottom of page 8 and the top of page 9 how much each individual platform has earned for the revenues, and then for the state share for both in-person wagers, which are the retail locations at the casinos themselves, and then also the online wagering. Obviously, online wagering is a lot more efficient. And then finally, on the bottom of page 9, we always are asked if we have any inquiries about racetrack gaming facilities. We have not had any inquiries about opening a racetrack gaming facility, but that's my report. I am certainly happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Steve, thank you for that. So I have a couple of questions here, then I'll open it up here. Can you talk to us a little bit about the iLottery?
Certainly. iLottery is potentially going to open in the next few weeks. It is a mechanism for players to get to be able to purchase our products in ways that they have not been able to in the past. It's been highly requested of us in the last 5 years. Why aren't we able to buy our products online? It is something that we've worked very hard at to try to make sure that, we have a lot of folks under our umbrella. We have our retailers that we have to make sure are held whole. We have to make sure that our casino partners are held whole. And we have to make sure that our players are happy with the products that we're able to get. iLottery, they will be able to purchase initially Powerball and Mega Millions online, and then there will be an instant component where they can take basically an instant style scratch ticket and translate it to an online space. And those we're anticipating, anywhere from probably an additional $16 million of revenue the first year. That's our anticipated.
When do you anticipate that instant scratch coming online?
It will probably be within the next, for sure within the next month.
That's quick.
We had hoped it was going to be sooner than that. We had a little bit of a hiccup with one of the pay schedulers last week, but I want to make sure I don't want to launch anything that is not as tested as we can make it. I don't want any hiccups, so we're going to test the heck out of this new change and make sure that it works and is functional.
So I'm going to back up here to the start of your report here. The vending machine money, I want to just kind of touch base on that. After the money that's left over from the vending machine money, since that's all specially earmarked, does that just go into the SGRF on that one?
Correct. All the
Okay.
monies go into that. Yes, sir.
Board, is there any other questions? Representative Sanders?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does the lottery provide a projection to the state every year as to how much money they'll be contributing?
Oh, yes. We go through a consensus revenue estimate twice a year, or in the spring and in the fall, and we work with the legislative staff and also the executive staff to see where we are sales-wise, anticipated sales in the next period, and try to get an accurate representation of where we might be. Yes, sir.
And how close did you come this past year for?
Pretty close. I mean, I think that we were, I can't give you the exact number of what was anticipated and the exact number of what we earned, but it wasn't, we're never off by much.
And I understand that some of the money is earmarked, but what percentage goes to the SGF?
The State General Fund, if you look on page, let's see here, jumping back. If you look back on the middle of page 2 of my testimony, you'll see that all the earmarks are first, and then the remainder goes to SGF. So I can't give you an exact percentage, but last year.
So do you project a number for SGF
Yes.
or not?
We project a number for everything, yeah.
All right, and my last question, going back to the iLottery, what kind of problems do you anticipate this might have for gambling, people who have gambling problems?
That's a really interesting question. If you think about, let's say, the anonymous player, somebody who walks into a convenience store and is able to buy a product just wherever they want and however they want. We have no control or any idea about how that person is playing or how that person is buying tickets. Through an iLottery program, it's actually a safer mechanism because we will know who that person is because they have to identify themselves because of a digital wallet. And we have to know who they are to make sure they're over the age of 18. And, obviously we want to make sure that they're complying with all of the statutory regulations that it takes to play the lottery. And as I mentioned earlier, we do now have somebody who's a responsible gaming person. And we also, the system will identify people who are you know, there's, if you look at 10, let's say we identify 10 different levels of play, like the casual player, and then we work all our way down to level 10 where it's like somebody might actually have a problem. Through that process, there are different levels of, hey, we can send you an email saying, hey, you know, you're playing an awful lot. Are you sure that you want to continue to do that? And, you know, and then it's like if you get to the next level, it's, oh gosh, you know, heaven's sakes, you know, you really maybe need to take a break here. And then here's some resources for you to try to get. So we actually have a better understanding and control and can try to help those folks if we have to.
Would you ever cut anybody off?
There's actually, yeah, I mean, we have the capability of doing that. We actually have ways that they can cut themselves off, that they can actually put themselves on a no play list for iLottery, and we certainly will encourage people to do that if they.
Thank
if
you.
we feel
Thank you,
strongly.
Mr. Chair.
Absolutely,
I assume that's, will be geofenced as well, right?
absolutely. State of Kansas only.
Okay. Representative Reese?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Missouri passed their online gaming or sports wagering bill barely. And we have a lot of people from Missouri that used to come across state line and place wagers. Do we anticipate an economic downturn since Missouri's going to start covering some of their own wages? They won't be coming to Kansas anymore?
Yes.
Do you have that figure?
No. I think that it's sort of an impossible thing to kind of guess at this point. I mean, we know people go back and forth across the line to place wagers, but we don't know how many people are coming across the line from Missouri that have jobs in Kansas that just would play on either side of the border, whether those are available. Because if, you know, if let's say DraftKings is available in Kansas and Missouri, then they can wager wherever they, particularly if they live in Missouri, then they can wager in Missouri. If they work in Kansas, they can wager in Kansas. So we're not sure exactly how much that's going to be an impact on. It will impact us, I'm sure. I mean, how much, I don't know.
Does that website track data on state line, like which wage when he come? I know people from Missouri said when they couldn't place a wage till they came across state line.
Yeah, they definitely have to come across the state line. We actually, when we started the geofencing, I've told this story before, but we got a call from a guy who lived on State Line Road on the Kansas side, and he said, "Can you turn down the intensity a little bit? I can't place a wager in my living room. I have to go to my backyard." Because it's further away from the State Line Road, and that's the only place I'll be able to place my sports bets. So it clearly works, but we will have more data about who's, how many players per day that we lose once Missouri goes online, whatever that is. We just don't know yet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Representative Hubert?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I know there's a lot of different types of gambling, and I know the most recent bill that was passed, I think I would like to be updated on the percentages that the state gets, how that compares with other states. At what point in time can that be re-examined and renegotiated?
For sports wagering? You mean? Yes, we can get you that information. I don't have it obviously with me, but we can definitely find you some information regarding how that works with other states. I don't have it with me.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, I think it'd be good for the
Sure.
community.
Just so you know, we do the contracts for the sports wagering. We made 5 years essentially, so
I'm saying
5 years.
Okay.
And we're about 2.5 years, so we're about halfway through that. We have had inquiries from some of the sports wagering platforms and/or the casinos to talk about extending those contracts already. And so we've entered into those discussions. Nothing has been signed yet to do so.
As you go through that process, I'm sure it'd be good for the legislature to be involved in having some input or at least being aware.
Yeah, and that's what we've done in most of those cases is, yeah, I mean, we anticipate that the legislature's sort of, how we've tried to handle it is the legislature, when it passed sports wagering, it was a new thing for the state of Kansas, and how the particulars worked out may not have been exactly as the way things were exactly advertised to the legislature. And so we have given ourselves room in any sort of contract negotiation to allow for future legislative change should the legislature make a change on percentages or earmarks or wherever those things go. So we've tried to anticipate that there may be changes the legislature may want to make in the future.
Well, I guess in the short term, just to really evaluating all the different pros and cons on, especially how other states do it, how it relates to us, how our competitive nature and market with Missouri might impact how we make those
Absolutely.
decisions. So
No,
I think that
for
would be
s-
great
Yeah,
for us.
absolutely. No, it's, we view it as, they're good business partners, and we want to make sure that we continue to be in business with them. But we have to make sure that our interests as the owner operator of gambling, gaming in the state are met.
I look forward to the information.
Sure.
Just to make sure I understand that correctly, I mean, to extend the contracts out, you do not need legislative approval, correct?
We do not.
Okay.
No.
Do you know what that window looks like?
Window for.
Negotiations, making a decision?
We've had one sports wagering platform ask for an extension at this point. The others have not. And we're in the process of talking with them. But again, making sure that there's an accommodation there for possible future legislative change.
Thank you. Representative Wagner?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question or two about the iLottery. I see it's like brand new. My memory was like a year or two ago, we had a bill that included the iLottery, but it didn't pass. And so what's the legislative authority for the iLottery?
Say that last part again, I'm sorry.
I thought we had a bill that included the iLottery, but it didn't pass, or it was stripped out in the final version. And so I'm a little puzzled as to the authority for the iLottery.
Well, it was interesting when we went back and looked at, because my concern is that if the lottery is responsible for owning and operating gaming across the state, if we were going to allow online sports wagering, how could we justify that if the lottery is the owner operator of those games and not allow iLottery? So we went back and read the statute essentially, and it turns out that the way the statute is written, we're allowed to do iLottery under these circumstances.
I see. Okay. A question then again. So in the last year, we had the somewhat change to the sports wagering. I mean, in the sense of about this Chief Stadium project. And so how exactly does that affect the sports wagering like right now? And it's just for another year that has as far as where the money goes to, or can you elaborate?
Right. I believe, if I remember correctly, we were not a part of that discussion. I believe that was an addendum that was made to the budget where for the next 2 years, a certain amount of money over don't quote me, I don't remember the exact number. I think it was $71.5 million. Anything that the lottery earns over that goes into that pre-existing Bring a Professional Sports Team to Kansas fund. I believe that's the way it works. But again, we earn it, send it over here, and you guys distribute it as seen fit. So.
If I may, one question. So my one colleague had, I thought, a very good question about, I know your contracts are 5-year, you did them in 22, they renew in 27. But it is very clear that you're not, that you are accommodating any sort of potential legislative changes in any sort of future discussions with anybody who is approaching you about extending the contract, correct?
Correct.
I mean, again, okay. And then one other thing, of course, I am aware there's a lot of different ways that different states have done sports wagering. I mean, Kansas took a certain tack that other states have not. My question there is the issue had come up originally as far as the lottery being involved in actual sports wagering, which a number of states, it is actually the prime mover, as it would be. I mean, there's nothing inherent. I know this question was asked you back then, and of course it was a little more theoretical. But as far as, there isn't anything literally, it would obviously require new legislation, but as far as the lottery to be involved in, after 27.
That's right.
Correct, okay.
Yeah, I mean, if I understand your question, and I apologize, if you're asking, do state lotteries in certain states run the sports wagering operation themselves versus having independent sports platforms run it for them? Yes, the answer is yes. There are certain states that do that. There are certain states that have done what we do, and we hire directly. Well, I can't say that. We are sort of unique in that we, because we have the casinos under the state umbrella, we are the first, I believe, that made the decision that sports wagering would run through the individual casinos rather than work directly with the state. I don't believe that's the case in Missouri. I believe that they've created another state agency for that, but don't quote me. So, yeah, but there's, I think that it's working. Having, the casinos, we view our relationship with our casinos as partnerships, and they have worked very hard to maintain good working relationships with the sports wagering platforms. Are there some things in the sports wagering bill that need tweaking? Sure. And we've tried to allow for that in future legislative action. So, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Representative Burkett?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wasn't really in your report, but hoping maybe you can answer. Historical horse racing, is there just one right now in Sedgwick County? Is that the only one in the state, or are there any others that have been approved?
Historic horse racing is under the jurisdiction of the Kansas Racing and Gaming Commission. That's not us, so you'll have to ask them. I don't believe there's anything open in Sedgwick County at this point. I'm looking over at staff, and they are agreeing that there is nothing open in Sedgwick County, and it has not been open since it was passed.
And then on the casino front, do you know if there's any further litigation with like Crosswinds in Park City? I know, again, it's kind of outside, but is that settled, or is it still future discussion?
I do not know. I don't believe so. There may be an appeal out in the 10th district, but I don't believe. Yeah, I don't believe so at this point. So.
Okay, thank you.
On the HHRs, I believe in that bill, it just allowed for one located in Sedgwick County. That was for the whole state.
Yeah. Yes, but it is not operational as of yet.
Yeah, I think they're another year or so out, I think. We can get an update on that, though. One quick question I have. The money that we set aside for the problem gambling and the addiction grant funds and stuff, does all that money get used?
I'm afraid you're going to have to ask our friends from ks.gov, and they're here. I'm sure you're going to have to answer questions. We know that they have a lot of work that goes into what it is they do there, and once we earn it, it goes to them to try and distribute and use accordingly. So,
any other questions? Mr. Durrell, I appreciate you coming and visiting
thank you very
with
much,
us and
Mr.
giving the
Chairman.
order.
If you have any other questions, we'll try to get your information as quick as we can. But if you have any thoughts afterwards, don't hesitate to give us a shout. We'll find what we can.
Thank you. Would KDADs like to make a comment on some of that?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Drew Adkins, Commissioner for Behavioral Health Services at KDADS. In short, yes, the dollars do get used. Because Kansas is a non-Medicaid expansion state, a lot of those dollars go to supplement uninsured and underinsured individuals that do need that substance use disorder and addiction treatment. And so in short, yes, those dollars do get used.
Any other questions for him while we have him up front here? Oh, Representative Wagner.
Yes, no, thank you. I'm very glad to hear. So as far as, again, so what you're saying is that the money that is set aside, like the 2% or whatever it is from the sports wagering that goes for problem gambling, that the bulk of it is actually just used for people who need help on, lower income people on paying bills or something? I didn't quite. Is it directly tied into people with gambling issues or what?
So, Chairman, Representative Wagner, thank you for the question. So maybe to lessen the confusion, the dollars that we get go for treatment, prevention and treatment services for the individuals that may be struggling from problem gambling. Sports betting is in that as well. So the sports betting portion that we get, as I understand, is roughly $184,000 according to our legislative report for this year. We also get Medicaid dollars for Medicaid match for individuals that do have Medicaid. And then for individuals that do not have any insurance coverage, so they're uninsured or maybe they're underinsured, we do get dollars that supplement treatment services for those individuals that struggle with sports betting or problem gambling.
I was made aware that in prior years, I believe in like 2012 and 2017, basically on a 5-year basis, there had been like a large Kansas study on, problem gambling as far as, a statistical study that was, multiple pages. It was never done in 2022. I take it from lack of money. Are you familiar at all with that? I've had some people reach out to me that there's been no follow-up study done in Kansas on problem gambling statistically.
Mr. Chair, Representative, thank you for the question. We do a prevalence study, and I can double check with my staff. I'm not sure about the time frame from 2012 to 2017. That's before my time. I'll trust your words there. And I would need to go back and double check on 2022, but I believe, and I'll double check with my staff, we are doing a prevalence study currently for 2024, so that should be coming out. It'll be available this summer.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Representative Osmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, I'm led to understand that that you're utilizing funds to supplement our lack of Medicaid expansion. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, Representative, thank you for the question. Yes, there are individuals that do seek out problem gambling services and treatment, and so some of those individuals that we see, I don't know the certain percentage, but there are individuals that are not covered underneath insurance, so there is no way for a provider to bill for those services, and so we do supplement with funding to make sure that no one, not any individual that is seeking treatment for problem gambling or any other addiction that they have related to problem gambling or sports betting, as I mentioned earlier, can still seek services.
Thank you very much. Do you have an approximation as to how much that is? And secondarily, what would those funds be used for if we were to pass Medicaid expansion?
Mr. Chair, Representative, thank you for the question. If I can clarify, are you asking how much that we supplement, how much funding we supplement for services? So thank you, Mr. Chair, Representative. In our legislative report, our annual report, which I'm sure that we can distribute to all, if you don't have that, we have that total for state fiscal year 2025 is an estimate for $2.25 million. Our Medicaid match in there is roughly around $4 million. To your second question, it would be a hypothetical, Mr. Chair and Representative. We would use that for potentially more marketing to supplement on the sports betting side, as if that were to continue to increase in popularity as we've seen, potentially hire more responsible gaming certification specialists to spread that information, awareness, education, and treatment across the state.
Not seeing any other questions. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
We're going to kind of jump right on into the economic fund overview real quick. If Mrs. Kane would like to come on up. If you'd introduce yourself. And looks like we have some updated paperwork that we're going to distribute.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. My name is Sharday Kane, and I am a senior fiscal analyst with Legislative Research. The Economic Development Initiatives Fund was established in 1986. The statutes governing the EDIF provide that it shall be used to finance programs supporting and enhancing the existing economic foundation of the state, fostering growth through the expansion of current businesses, and the establishment and attraction of new commercial and industrial enterprises. The EDIF fund is funded through the State Gaming Revenues Fund, a portion of state revenue from both the lottery and pari-mutuel wagering is transferred to the SGRF, and that fund is a holding fund from which transfers are made on a monthly basis. In normal years, not more than 50 million may be credited to the SGRF in any fiscal year, and amounts in excess of 50 million are credited to the SGF. On this side of the document, you can see the history of the percentage that has gone to the EDIF and other funds. It started with about 60% in 1986 being EDIF, and then it's been about 85% since then. And you can see what that total amount looks like. On the other side, you can see the agency request for fiscal year 2025 and 2026, as well as what is currently in House Bill 2007. And what was I gonna say? The expenditures and transfers are also on there, and then the balances, and then the gaming revenues that are coming from this SGRF is about 42.4 million at this point. And I'm happy to stand for questions on anything related to the EDIF or get information for you and report back.
Thank you for that. I just want to be clear, I didn't see that. Where are the adjustments for House Bill 2007?
Those adjustments are under the LBC recommendation, so columns 3 and 5. And the one online currently does not have column 5, so that's why I passed this one out.
Thank you for that. Committee, do we have so many questions about that? Zero? Okay. No questions. Going once. Awesome. Well, thank you for the overview, and I appreciate the updating. A lot of our members, even though that was introduced, aren't really familiar with HB 2007, so thank you for getting that in there. I appreciate that a lot. So the next thing I want to kind of touch on right now is I want everybody to be aware that the committee rules are posted online now, so they are there for your review. You can go to the Fed and State Committee and you'll see those posted there. Also, our conferee rules are also posted on there too, so please read those, and the numbers and contacts and all that information is on that, and those are all on the website under the Fed and State Committee documents, and you'll be able to find them there. And please review those, and any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and we'll tackle those. But I wanted to Representative Clayton.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Do we have any substantive changes between the former committee rules and the current ones? I tried to find them on the S drive, but the old ones, but they are nowhere to be found, so.
Yeah, we reworded a few things and kind of changed a couple of things. But one good news is that these committee rules will be pretty uniform throughout all of your committees. So that was one thing we did change this year. So you wouldn't have to have different committee rules for this committee versus another committee. They're all really, really, really close. Any other questions about that? Okay. Please review those, and if you have any questions about that, obviously, like I said, reach out. But I just wanted to real quick, for our new members, I wanted to kind of go over a couple things real quick. First of all, when we're having a hearing and we're having people speak in, if you don't understand some of the acronyms, because we'll throw a lot of acronyms out at you, please don't feel that you're going to slow things up by asking, what is that? And because we'll be happy to explain that. Sometimes we get going on things and we've been using these acronyms for years, and so we don't, sometimes we forget that a lot of people may not know what these acronyms are that we use. So please reach out, please stop us, please ask, and I encourage that. So one thing also with the new people, I just want to kind of go over bill introductions. When we ask for bill introductions at the start of the committee, we're not really asking for introductions. we're kind of asking for a request, actually. So we're actually requesting a bill. And that process kind of starts with an idea from you, your constituent, an organization, or group, or something. But that starts when you talk to one of our revisors and tell the revisors exactly what the idea is, and they will draft that up for you in a bill form. But during this process, this is kept completely confidential. This is not public information. This is between you and the revisor. Unless you make it public, this all stays private at this point. After the revisor's done and lets you know, and you guys kind of tweak it and kind of get it to where you want it. Now, there's a couple different processes that you can take. First process is you can come to the committee and you can introduce it into a committee. At that time, it becomes a committee-sponsored bill. And if you don't want it to be a committee-sponsored bill, you can turn that bill in yourself to the clerk, and it'll just become an individual bill. So you can do that either way you want, but when you turn it into the clerk will read it in on the floor, and at that time, that's the actual introduction. That's when the bill is introduction. It'll be assigned a bill number, it'll go to the speaker, and the speaker will assign it to the committee. Once it's been assigned to the committee, and now we have that document, now we can do things with it. We can look at it, we can have hearings on it, we can talk about it, we can do other things. But until we get to that point, it's not really our bill to work or our bill to mess with. When you are going to introduce a bill in the committee, there's a couple things that we need to know. So if you're going to introduce a bill, obviously we need to know if it's from you or not. If it's in behalf of somebody or an organization or a group, we want that to be announced as well. So if you're introducing this bill on behalf of somebody, we want to know who that is, so we can have that in the minutes and document that as well. It must have an RS number. You're not going to introduce a bill without an RS number. That will come from the revisors when you work that out. I want a brief description of the bill. The reason I want a brief description of the bill is that no bills outside of our subject matter will be approved as a committee bill. So if it's outside of our committee, I will reject it, just so you know. And then we can talk about that and where that probably should go. But if it's outside of our scope, we're not going to accept it as a committee bill. And once we get to that part, after the brief description, we'll ask if there's any objections. If there's no objections, then we will enter that in as a committee bill and we'll start that process. If there is an objection, we'll kind of I'll make the determination there, and we'll probably come down to a simple committee vote, whether or not we accept that as a committee as a whole. Any questions about that? All right. So we don't have next week kind of finalized yet. We're waiting on some bills to get read in today, and once they're read in today, they'll be assigned out real quick. So look for that. We'll have that agenda out as soon as we can for next week. Without any other questions? Representative Sanders?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it your intent to generally work on Fridays?
I don't know. I was going to say it depends on the load of the bills that we have and the number of bills that we want to work, right? So right now, I think there's like 2 in there. I think there's like 2 bills in a resolution. So we don't have a lot going on. So I'm not going to drag you in here just so I can, see you. If we're not going to be working something or doing something productive, I really just assume not even meet. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how many bills get assigned our way. Any other questions? If there is none, we are adjourned.